Informatica training program, we would be going through a variety of course contents. So I'll be walking you through all the contents of the training program. So what all we'll be covering as part of the whole sessions. I'll walk you through the complete schedule, and I'll also walk you through the tools which we'll be actually covering in Informatica Powercenter. So once the training program gets completed, you can have yourself defined with the job role of ETL Informatica Powercenter developer with approximately around 2 to 3 years of experience. We will be going through a few modules and we'll be covering a lot of topics under those modules. So the first module which we'll be going through would be data warehousing. Before we start, I just wanted to make sure that anyone who is attending this training program, it's a prerequisite that you need to understand the database concepts, and you should have a good knowledge on SQL queries, because that is something which is very much required from any ETL tool perspective. So we will understand the concepts of data warehousing. So we'll go through the data warehousing architecture. We'll understand the concepts of data warehousing. We'll also understand, as part of the data warehousing architecture, we'll understand the need of any ETL tool in the market and why is Informatica being used in the market, why are so many companies using Informatica in the market. So we'll definitely understand that what is the present need of Informatica. We'll understand the concepts of dimensional modeling. So like the relational modeling or the ER modeling, entity relationship model, we have a separate model called the dimensional model, and it is actually used to model your data warehouse or data marts. So it is modeled in a star schema or a snowflake schema. So mainly Informatica is used for all your data warehousing projects, for creating a data warehouse rather. So we'll go into the details of the data warehousing architecture concepts and the dimensional modeling concepts, because this is again a requisite knowledge for any ETL tool, or rather any reporting tool, because that is the main environment, that is the main business usage where an ETL and a reporting comes into picture. The next module which we'll be going through would be, we'll get into the Informatica Powercenter tool. So we will go through the introduction of Informatica Powercenter. Just to brief you a little bit, Informatica has been it's been very experienced tool, and there have been different versions Informatica has launched of Powercenter. So there were Powercenter 5, 6, 7, 8, and presently it's running on 9.x. So we would be definitely working and learning the features and capacity of Informatica Powercenter 9.x. So when I talk about 9.x, we would be discussing the architecture of Informatica Powercenter 9.x. And as part of the architecture, there are a lot of components within the architecture. So to understand the architecture completely, we need to understand each of the components within the architecture. So we will go through the components and understand each component in detail, the purpose, the functionality of each component. From the previous versions of Informatica Powercenter, there have not been much changes to the architecture of Powercenter, but Informatica has added a new feature of data quality, which is not a part of Informatica Powercenter. So that is something new which has been added to Informatica 9, but still there are some new features which they have introduced to Informatica Powercenter as well. So we will be actually discussing the new features in Informatica Powercenter 9. But I will take up this topic at the end of the session, in the sense at the end of the training program, because there would be a lot of there are some features which actually correlate with a lot of topics, and we'll be able to understand the features only when we go through those topics. So it's better to take this particular topic for new features in Informatica at the end of the training program. And then I will give you an overview of all the Powercenter client tools. So I'll walk you through what each of those client tools, like Informatica Powercenter Designer, Informatica Powercenter Workflow Manager, and Informatica Powercenter Workflow Monitor. So these are the client tools which are used for specific purposes for creating your whatever development activity you're performing. You use these three client tools to perform your development activity. But each of these tools do have some specific functionalities. So we will be walking through as an overview initially for each of these tools, and then probably we'll get into the complete details, going through all the options, most of the options which are there, what each of these options do. So we'll go through all the properties and understand the tool in a detailed level as well. So before we move ahead, I just want to clarify one small doubt which probably most of us have when we just say the word Informatica. So Informatica in itself is not a tool, it's basically the name of the company. And the ETL tool which is basically used in the market is known as Powercenter. So collectively we call Informatica Powercenter as the ETL tool. So that is a small confusion which probably most of the people have, because in layman terms they just call Informatica as the ETL tool. So I just wanted to clarify that doubt or that confusion, which maybe probably some of you might be having. So so whenever you you put that point forward. So as an ETL tool, it's Informatica Powercenter. And apart from Powercenter, there are a lot of other tools which Informatica company has as their products. So all these tools are proprietary products of Informatica, and Powercenter is an ETL tool which is created by Informatica. So the next module which we'll be discussing about would be the most important part of the Informatica Powercenter tool, which is Informatica Powercenter transformations. Because when I talk about ETL, it means extract, transform, and load. So ultimately, we are extracting the data from somewhere, transforming it, and loading it into your data warehouse or any other database, which might be modeled as a dimensional model. So it is very important to understand that how we are transforming the data, because that is the whole and soul functionality of any ETL tool, which uses a lot of inbuilt transformations which have been provided by the product to actually transform the data in as required. So transformation means you can actually clean the data. So data cleansing is a part of transformations. Or there could be some specific requirements according to which you need to actually manipulate your data before you load into your targets. And obviously your source systems, when I talk about source and the target systems, the way the source and the targets are designed would be definitely different. So the schema in which the model in which the source system is designed and the model in which your target system is designed would not be same. So obviously in order to map your source to your target, you will definitely need a lot of transformations. So that's why Informatica transformations are the most important part of this training program as well. So we'll be going through a lot of transformations. But before we start with the transformations, we'll understand how to import the source and targets. So we'll go through the flat file sources and the relational sources and targets. Informatica can import or can load data from, extract data from a variety of sources. So it could be flat files or relational. When I say relational, any database tables. So, but it can also connect to some other types of sources as well, as in like it can extract data from web services. It can extract data from XML files. So there are other variety of sources as well which can be used by Informatica to extract data from and even load data too. So what we will be discussing as part of this training program, we'll be discussing the flat file and the relational sources, which are most widely used sources and targets in any real-time project. And at the basic level, these are the two sources and targets which would be covered as part of this program. We will go through a variety of transformations which are again most widely used. So we'll go through source qualifier, expression, filter, router, sorter, aggregator, joiner, sequence generator, update strategy, lookup, union, rank. So these will be the transformations which we'll be covering as part of the training program. And when I say we'll be covering, we will not only understand the basic concepts, we'll go into the complete detail of each of these transformations, understanding the concept behind the transformation, as in how does it work, what does it do, what is the functionality, what is the purpose of each of these transformations. Every transformation has a lot of properties defined. So what does each property mean? How do we configure these transformations by setting those properties, and what is the behavior when we change those properties? So we'll be going through that detail. We will also be going through some of the performance considerations in each of those transformations. So every transformation has some properties defined to improve the performance. So we'll be considering the performance aspects for most of these transformations when we discuss them in detail. Along with that, because this is something which is the major development activity performed by any developer. So I will give you assignments on all of these transformations, on most of these transformations rather. So those assignments will cover all of these transformations, and I will give you time to actually work on those assignments. I'll share, I would be sharing the list of all the assignments in one go, and then probably at the end of each session, we'll be discussing, I'll be explaining you the question, and then probably I'll give you time for the whole program. The duration of the whole program can be taken by you to work on those assignments. If you want some hints on any of them and you are not able to proceed, I'll give you hints. And then at the end of the session, we will discuss the solutions. Not the session, at the end of the training program rather, we will discuss the solutions of all those assignments. And why I am actually going by that route is because I want you to get maximum amount of time to work on those assignments, because that will give you a good hands-on practice on the tool itself, and it'll actually help you to build up your logics on your own, because in case if I just provide ready to make solutions, that will probably not help much from your development perspective. So it's better that you work on those assignments once, and then probably we can discuss the solutions, because there could also be possibility that the solution which I might be providing might be different from the solution which you might have. So we'll definitely discuss the solutions, but that will be at the end of the training program. So my main intention of this training program would be to have you a good hands-on experience and give you a good practical knowledge from Informatica Powercenter perspective, which will actually help you in defining you the job role of ETL Informatica Powercenter developer in a more justifiable way with a good amount of experience. So once you are done with all those assignments, once you're thorough with those assignments, you can consider yourself having 2 to 3 years of experience with Informatica Powercenter. As far as the hands-on from the training point of view is concerned, we will definitely be walking through the tools. So I'll be showing you the tools of Informatica, and I'll be showing you how to create those transformations. I'll be showing you how to create the whole workflow which we create. So I'll be showing you an end-to-end creation as well, so that when you start working on those assignments, you know actually what is the end-to-end flow. whenever a development is performed. So basically, when I talk about transformations, we are actually working on various tools. So we're working on Informatica Powercenter Designer to actually create the transformations. So not rather create the transformations, but rather create the mapping logic or create the ETL logic. We work on the Powercenter Designer tool. So this is the Powercenter Designer tool. I'll just wanted to show you how it looks like. So this is a small ETL mapping which contains your source, your target, and your transformation. So there could be multiple transformations out here. So these are the transformations which we'll be discussing. And this is the Powercenter Designer tool. So this whole ETL logic is known as a mapping. And this mapping is created in Powercenter Designer. And there are some other features which are provided by Designer apart from creating this mapping. So we will be going through those features as well as part of the Designer feature. So that will be the next topic which we'll be covering after the transformations, which will be features in Designer. And the features would be importing and exporting a code. So we can take a backup of the code, or we can migrate the code, Informatica code or Informatica mapping. So we'll see the process or the way we can do it. We'll study about the mapping variables and mapping parameters. Then there's a feature to compare two mappings. So to find out the differences. So we'll see that feature as well. We will be checking the we can check the dependencies of any mapping or any component to see where it is being used. Probably there could be one transformation being reused in many mappings. So if you want to check the dependencies in that way, we can check using a feature provided by Designer. So I'll be showing you how to do that. I'll be showing you how to propagate the attributes. We'll be discussing about the target load plan. That's it. So with this module, in this module, basically we'll be covering all the transformations, sources, and targets, and the features of Designer. So it will basically cover the Informatica Powercenter Designer tool in detail. The next module we'll be covering would be Informatica Powercenter workflow. Workflows. So there is one more tool. If I get back, as I mentioned, the first client tool to create an ETL logic or a mapping using the transformation sources and targets is Informatica Powercenter Designer. But once you create the logic, there is one more tool which actually creates executables or executable versions of executable components rather for the ETL logic. So in order to execute your ETL logic, you actually need to create a workflow. So you need to create a workflow, and you need to create sessions and tasks within that workflow. So basically, Informatica Powercenter Workflow Manager is a tool which is basically used to create workflows, create sessions, and create tasks. So a session is nothing but it's a one-to-one mapping, a one-to-one correspondence with the mapping. So for every mapping, ETL mapping or ETL logic which you develop, you create an executable version which is called a session, and then you use that session within a workflow. You create a workflow, and a workflow might comprise of sessions and other types of tasks, which is further executed in order to execute your ETL logic. So whatever logic you are actually developing in the designer, you need to create executable versions and then executable components, and then execute that workflow in using the workflow manager. Design that in the workflow manager, and then execute it using the workflow manager. So this is a tool which is basically used to create and execute workflows. So we will be going through the workflows in detail. So we'll be covering the parameter file concept, session properties, we'll cover the different types of tasks. So along with a session, as I mentioned, there are other different types of tasks as well, like which are having some specific functionalities to perform. So you can have an assignment task, a timer task, a control task, event wait, event raise, command task, email task. So all these tasks have again some specific functionalities, and each of them are used to have they're having some specific properties which need to be set and control the functionality of these tasks. So we'll be covering in detail all these tasks, when and how they're used, for what purpose are they used within a workflow. We would be covering the reusable tasks as well. Some of these tasks are reusable, so we'll understand the meaning, the way we create the reusable tasks, and which of these tasks are reusable, can be reused. We'll go through the workflow properties. It's very important to understand the properties in the sessions and the workflows, tasks, and even the transformations, because these are the properties, which control a lot of behavior, the way the workflow executes. So it could be a drop down, it could be a check uncheck, it could be a text box in which you are specifying some value, but that the value you are specifying is actually controlling or the behavior of the workflow from a lot of aspects. So it could be a performance aspect, it could be the amount of detail which you might see at various places. So there are a lot of the way you want to load the data, the way you want to extract the data. So there are a lot of things which can be configured using these properties. So it's very important to understand each of these properties in a better way. We will see how to schedule the workflows. And we'll also understand the concept of workflow variables. So with this, we'll complete the workflow manager. After this, we will go through the details of another tool which is known as Workflow Monitor. So like Workflow Manager, we have another tool which is called Informatica Powercenter Workflow Monitor. So Workflow Manager, as I mentioned, it was used to create and execute workflows. Workflow Manager is a tool which is used to actually monitor the Informatica workflows. So you're monitoring your job, so whatever you are executing, it goes. So there is a monitoring tool which is provided by Informatica Powercenter, which is basically used to monitor all your jobs, whatever you are running. So you can see the status of each of the jobs. You can actually view the start time, completion time. So we can view the logs out here. For each of the session or the task or the workflow which is executing, it creates workflow log, it creates session logs. So you can view that. So we will be going through the detail of the workflow monitor tool. We'll understand the session logs, how does it write the data. We'll understand the workflow logs. That's it. So this would be a very small session because we'll go through some of the properties and all, but like it's a tool in which you are not doing anything as part of the development activity. You're not creating anything. It's just that whatever has been created and executing, it's used to check the status. So it's used to, if something fails, you need to actually analyze by viewing the logs at what could be the failure. So it gives you a start to debug your mapping in case if there is any failure. In the case if there is no failure, you are actually, as part of any production support project, you need to regularly and continuously monitor these jobs and keep an eye and keep a watch on them. So this is a tool which helps you to keep an eye on your production processes which are executing. So someone has asked me that is it a Windows-based tool? So yes, it is a Windows-based tool. So you install it on a Windows server, but so you configure. It has a client-server architecture. So you install your clients on one machine and server on another machine, or probably you can have the server and client installed on the same machine, and definitely it would be a Windows machine, but it could also be a Unix box. So the clients will definitely be installed on a Windows machine, but the server can be configured on a Unix box as well. So it depends how you are actually configuring your server. It could be a Windows environment, it could be a Unix box. So it's not mandatory for server to have it on a Windows box. You can also configure it on Unix box. So based on that, the way it is configured, you'll actually have Unix commands running on it, or you can have some batch commands in case if you're configuring on a Windows server. You can do your scripting through the batch commands, Windows batch commands. So the last module, but not the least, as I mentioned earlier as well, we will be discussing about the assignment solutions and few more concepts. So we'll be taking 1 or 2 sessions completely for the assignment solutions. and we'll cover a few more concepts there. Like full and delta loads. And slowly changing dimensions. This is a data warehousing concept, but it is very much used in the in case of any data warehousing environment when you work with an ETL tool, because the slowly changing dimensions are created using an ETL tool. So we'll be covering all three types of slowly changing dimensions. There is a question again that we be covering scripting as well. Scripting is completely done in case if it's a Unix box. It's a complete separately a different technology which comes down to Unix scripting. So Unix is would be a separate training course, and it's not a part of Informatica. Probably most of the cases when you're working on Informatica which is configured on Unix box, it is actually a prerequisite from those type of projects that you should have knowledge on Unix. So Unix scripting is something again, as I mentioned, it's just a different technology altogether. But then I won't be covering the scripting part of it. I can show you a few commands, like there is a PMCMD command which is used to execute the workflow at the Unix level, and using some tasks like command task and some other session in session there are some properties in which you can call the Unix script. So I'll show you how to actually call the commands or the Unix scripts, or probably since I don't have a Unix environment set up, I have my Informatica installed on the Windows environment. So I'll show you how a batch script is created, because we in our environment as well we have some batch scripts created. So I'll show you how a batch script is created for executing some SQL files or for executing some other type of jobs. So I'll show you how to call those batch scripts using the command task. So we cannot get into the details of the scripting, like how a script is created, because that becomes a separate topic altogether and a separate subject area altogether. But yes, how they are integrated within Informatica, as in how Informatica is using the script, in the sense how you are calling the script, probably we'll take up that part as part of the training program. So I won't be able to show you things from the Unix box, because Unix is not configured from the Informatica server. But yes, definitely, since we have in our environment we have Windows server configured, so I'll show you from a Windows server perspective how the integration is done. Okay, so with this, we'll be completing the whole the training program. So I will show you the complete schedule as well. So this would be the schedule of all the topics which we discussed right now. So we'll be taking up as part of the schedule. So each day we'll be covering on a daily basis. Each session will be covering these the topics which I have mentioned as part of this session plan for Informatica training, and it would take around 20 to 25 hours of training to complete this course. And obviously we will have We will have probably a last session for any doubts. If you have, we can discuss that. And as I mentioned earlier as well, I will be giving you some assignments. So these are the list of assignments which I have created. So I have a lot of assignments, which around 15 to 16 assignments, which have been created, and I'm actually preparing. I'll just prepare it in Excel and share that with you, so that you can actually go through those assignments very easily, as in like while working on them. So when you have the question in front of you, probably it'll be helpful for you. They will not waste time in noting them down and all. So I'll have those assignments shared across you so that you already have them and you can work on them during the complete program, and you get a lot of time to work on them, and then we can discuss the solutions of these assignments in the last two sessions. Okay. So with this, we might complete today's demo session. In case if you have any questions now, any technical questions or any other questions, probably you can shoot up now.